Hi, welcome to Munch and Mend. This is a video that fits under the What Kept Me Stuck section, and that is being written off by medical professionals. Feeling I'd been written off by medical professionals and I was kind of beyond help with regards to my eating disorder was one of those things that was really, really destructive to me. And yeah, because we're all programmed, aren't we, to believe that they know best, which often they do, and yeah, what they say is correct, or the way that they act is correct, or the message that we get. So for me, over the many years after I'd been discharged from the eating disorder service, I was very much still, struggling with chronic, like, bulimic behaviors. I'd have intermittent anorexia, purging anorexia that would come in, and my weight would fluctuate. One of those got quite bad before, just before COVID. And it was just so difficult because I'd go to because I have bipolar type 2, I'd go to regular psychiatric appointments, and I would talk about how distressing and how much my eating disorder symptoms were taking over my life, and how hard it was. And there was never any mention of re-referring me to the eating disorder service. And yeah, that again just made me feel like I'd been completely written off. It was in my notes, it was in, and that's what they thought. Sadly, with all services, and I completely understand, especially with the mental health services, they are absolutely stretched. And I guess they were kind of focusing on, the bipolar type 2. They weren't an eating disorder service, but, not feeling heard, and, having no mention of getting help, or no even, I really feel that you can do this, you can, you can conquer it, or anything like that. It was just, yeah, I just felt completely hopeless, and like there was absolutely no point in getting me help in the future or referring me to services, because yeah, they honestly believed that I was going to be like that for the rest of my life. And let's face it, there are, and I do a separate video about the documented statistics of people with eating disorders, and kind of the longer it goes on, the lesser the hope of recovery. And yeah, so I guess maybe as general psychiatric doctors and that's what they believe. And yeah, and also because I wasn't at death's door in terms of like being severely underweight, because a lot of the time I was just very much struggling with these real bulimic behaviours that were absolutely destroying my life and my mental health, and and yeah, destroying my quality of life. Yeah, they couldn't see. And this is the other thing, which it's not about, and the seriousness and the how detrimental eating disorders are. It's not weight dependent, but yeah, I guess that's just what they're taught to look out for. And yeah, so I very much felt that I'd been written off. I'd had my time, I'd had my shot at treatment for my eating disorder, and kind of that was it. Unfortunately, because of this, and also the other reasons that kind of kept me stuck, if you have a look at that section, there's quite a few, but because of like feeling that I'd been written off, I completely lost hope in myself. There was always something at the back of me that really wanted to recover, and always fought and fought to build this life after I'd gone through that spell where I'd been hospitalized and that. But like I say, it was very much my life I built around my eating disorder in terms of like bulimia and purging anorexia. And it was just, yeah, I just made peace that one day I would succumb to my eating disorder. I'd either split my stomach, I'd have a sudden cardiac arrest, or my husband would find me dead in bed in the morning. And yeah, I'd kind of resided myself to that and made peace with it, which now I see was just so wrong and so toxic and poisonous and destructive and not true. you know, I never ever should have written myself off, and yeah, and neither should anyone else, because, you know, all these things that kind of kept me stuck, including feeling written off and writing off myself, it was my eating disorder using it as ammunition against me. It will, and it did, grab onto absolutely anything to keep me stuck, and to just, yeah, and just to keep me by its side and feed me these lies. And, you know, now I think, what right has anyone, you know, whether they're medical professionals or not, and I know it's not their fault necessarily, but what right has anyone got to allude or suggest that I am beyond hope? Because, you know, it's this eating disorder that is using that against me. And, you know, oh, I just really wish that I'd seen that, and, you know, and sort of let go of it sooner, and realised that, you know, one day life could change, and, you know, I could see my eating disorder for really truly what it was, and, you know, let go of it, and realised that I was worth fighting for. I was worth letting it go and being free from this toxic, demonic disease that was just, you know, vindictive, manipulative, and using absolutely anything it could, any which way it could, to, yeah, keep me, you know, just, oh, stuck within its grips, you know, engaging in these very toxic and nasty and, oh, controlling, quality of life diminishing eating disorder behaviors that I was just hiding from everyone else, living in fear, trying to hide it, and just, oh yeah, I just, spending so much money on food. You'll see a video about, like, you know, £1,000 a month, sometimes more, on food that just went down the drain, and all the time I lost, all the time that I could have spent with my mum building memories. I could have been there in the moment when I was just so focused on my eating disorder, getting my next fix, getting my next binge, my weight, food, shape. You know, it's just such a waste, and I just feel so angry with myself, but what, not necessarily with myself as such, but with my eating disorder, and with myself for believing my eating disorder, and for, you know, believing its lies, and for, you know, taking these things that, you know, were driving me to keep me stuck, and putting those ahead of everything that wanted, you know, wanted me to let it go. And yeah, it just, like I say, thank God I triumphed in the end, but I just wish I'd woke up and smelled the coffee beforehand, and realised that, you know, no one, and it had no right to tell me that I was completely beyond hope, and that, you know, I was never going to be free from the grips of this toxic, vile disease. So now I absolutely regret, I've said it many times, I regret all the years that I wasted dedicated to my eating disorder. And, you know, looking back, I just wish I'd let go of it sooner and seen it for what it really is and was. You know, recovery isn't linear, it's ups and downs, but just keep fighting. I kept fighting, and, you know, committed to therapy, committed to the meal plan. And, you know, like I say, I cannot believe where I am today, and I never ever in a million years thought this would be possible. And I wish it hadn't taken my mum passing away for me to realise this, and for me to believe in myself, and, you know, not listen to my eating disorder, not, you know, succumb to what the medical professionals were alluding, and what the statistics were in, you know, actually reaching a recovery when you've had an eating disorder for a long time. Like I say, what right has anyone or anything, you know, got to tell you that you're beyond hope and make you feel like you're beyond hope? And yeah, because you're really, really not, and I wasn't. So please, please keep fighting if you can, let go of it and put it where it belongs, because it's not in your life. You know, you deserve to be free from this demonic disease that just wants to stay, you know, possess you and keep you within its grips. And yeah, I realise now it wasn't my identity, it wasn't me, and there was a life out there and there was hope. So please, please join me in the fight against all eating disorders and join me in recovery. I was never beyond help, and neither are you. Bye.